The sky over Pine Ridge darkened rapidly as heavy clouds gathered above the Montana highlands. Martha Wilson, 73, observed the changing weather through the window of her kitchen, warmed by the wood stove. Her wrinkled hands held a cup of freshly brewed coffee, its aroma filling the space with familiarity and comfort. "Heavy rain's coming," she murmured to herself, feeling the prediction in her bones that no meteorologist could dispute. The first thunder broke the silence like a warning, followed by the drumming of rain on the zinc roof. Martha sighed, grateful to be inside on a night like this. Her eyes scanned the simple kitchen she knew by heart. Each crack in the wall, each mark on the wooden table, silent witnesses to the years she had spent alone in this ranch after her husband's passing. The storm was gaining strength when an odd sound cut through the noise of the rain, a thin, almost childlike scream, mixed with a metallic crash that didn't belong to the natural symphony of the tempest. Martha froze, the cup suspended in mid-air. She waited, thinking she might have imagined it. But the sound came again, weaker, more desperate. "Good Lord," she stammered, placing the cup on the table. Common sense told her to stay where she was, safe and dry. But there was something in that sound, something that spoke directly to the part of her that could never ignore a cry for help. She grabbed the flashlight from the drawer, put on the waterproof coat hanging near the door, and pulled on her rubber boots. The rain greeted her mercilessly when she opened the back door. The mud sucked at her boots as she walked in the approximate direction of the sound, the flashlight cutting through the darkness with its trembling beam. The rain streamed down her face, entering her collar despite her best efforts. "Is anyone there?" she shouted, her voice barely audible against the roar of the elements. She pressed on, reaching the abandoned railroad tracks that cut through the neighboring property, unused for decades. That's when she saw it, part of an old derailed train car, partially buried by the embankment that had collapsed with the rain. And there, trapped under a twisted metal structure, was a small girl, soaked and trembling. Even more surprising was the imposing figure beside her, a majestic black buffalo, completely motionless, like a silent guardian, its eyes fixed on the fallen child. "My heavens," Martha gasped, approaching cautiously, divided between fear of the enormous animal and the urgency to help the girl. The buffalo raised its massive head, looking directly at Martha. Instead of a threat, there was something almost conscious in that gaze, an intelligence that transcended animal nature. "I'm going to help her," Martha said, as if the animal could understand. To her surprise, the buffalo stepped back a few paces, making room. With effort, Martha tried to move the metal structure, but it was too heavy for her elderly arms. That's when the buffalo approached again, positioning itself to push the structure with its tremendous strength. "That's it, big guy," Martha encouraged, joining her strength with the animal's. Gradually, the structure gave way enough to free the girl. "What's your name, little one?" Martha asked, wrapping the soaked child in her coat. "Lily," came the response in an almost inaudible whisper. Before the girl's eyes closed from exhaustion, Martha looked around, expecting to see an adult, some sign of how this child had ended up there. But there was only the buffalo, standing in the rain, watching them with those enigmatic eyes that seemed to carry secrets as ancient as the earth itself. "Come on, little one," she decided, lifting Lily in her arms with a strength she didn't know she still possessed. "Let's get you out of this rain." As she moved away toward the safety of her house, Martha felt more than saw. The buffalo was following them, silent as a shadow. The rain continued to fall mercilessly throughout the night, as if the sky wanted to wash away traces of what had happened. In Martha Wilson's cozy house, Lily slept wrapped in blankets, her small body occasionally shuddering with invisible nightmares. Seated in a rocking chair near the bed, Martha watched the girl with a mixture of concern and curiosity. There was something about this child, something in the frightened eyes she had briefly seen before the girl fell asleep. A weight that no 8-year-old should carry. The first rays of morning finally penetrated through the cracks in the curtain when Lily awoke with a start, looking around in disorientation. "Easy, little one," Martha said in her hoarse but gentle voice. "You're safe here." The girl stared at her, suspicious, clutching the blanket to her chest like a shield. "Thunder, where's Thunder?" she asked, her voice urgent despite the low tone. "Thunder?" The buffalo. He followed me when I ran away. He protected me. Martha hesitated, remembering the imposing animal that had mysteriously disappeared after they reached the house. He's not here anymore, dear, but we're safe. Lily's eyes filled with tears. He always comes back. He senses when I need him. A heavy silence settled between them. Outside birds sang, oblivious to the human drama unfolding. "Can you tell me what happened? Where did you come from?" Martha asked softly, serving a mug of hot chocolate to the girl. Lily accepted the drink with trembling hands, but her gaze remained lowered, fixed on the small ripples in the dark liquid. "I can't. He said bad things would happen if I talked." Her voice was just a whisper. "Who said that, Lily?" The girl shook her head, her lips firmly closed, as if fearing words might escape against her will. Martha took a deep breath, recognizing the signs. In her long years of life, she had learned to read silences as well as words. "That's okay. You don't have to tell me now, but I'll need to take you to the hospital to make sure you're all right." Lily's eyes widened in panic. "No. They'll find me there." "Who, Lily? Who's looking for you?" Before the girl could answer, the sound of hooves on the ground made them both turn to the window. There he was, the black buffalo, majestic under the golden morning light, grazing calmly as if this had been his territory for years. "Thunder!" Lily's face lit up momentarily before returning to a tense expression. "He knows we're not safe. Here for long." Something in the child's conviction made Martha shudder. Perhaps it was just childish imagination, perhaps something more. "This name, Thunder, Sil, was he your pet?" Lily shook her head. "He doesn't belong to anyone. He chooses who he'll protect." Martha nodded, deciding not to question the childish logic for now. "And your parents, Lily, they must be worried." A bitter smile out of place on the young face briefly appeared. "My father only cares about money and what people think of him." "And your mother?" "She left when I was a baby. Melissa says she couldn't stand living with so many lies." "Melissa?" "My sister." Lily's voice dropped even lower. "She left too. Everyone leaves except Thunder." Martha felt her heart tighten. Each answer brought more questions, more layers to a mystery that seemed to grow with each moment. "What's your father's name, Lily?" The girl hesitated, biting her lower lip. "Alan Vincent," she finally answered, almost inaudibly. The name hit Martha like an electric shock. Alan Vincent was practically royalty in Pine Ridge, owner of the largest elite buffalo breeding operation in the region, a respected businessman, a central figure in agricultural events. His face appeared on billboards, local newspapers, even had a street named after him in the town center. "Lily, why did you run away from your father's ranch?" The girl raised her eyes, and in them Martha saw something that made her freeze, not just fear but determination, an understanding beyond her years. "Because I discovered that some things are wrong even when important people say they're right." Outside. The house the buffalo raised its massive head, as if it had heard something in the distance, its dark eyes fixed on the winding road that led to Martha's property. Someone was coming. The engine's roar broke the morning quiet even before the vehicle appeared around the bend. A black SUV, gleaming and imposing like its likely owner, moved slowly along the muddy path. "It's him," Lily whispered, panic evident in her childish voice. "He found me." Martha didn't need to ask who he was. She already suspected, and confirmation came when the vehicle parked in her yard. Alan Vincent stepped out of the car, impeccable in his grey suit, contrasting with the mud that stained his Italian shoes. Beside him, a burly man with an impenetrable expression, clearly some kind of personal security. "Stay inside," Martha ordered the girl, who had already shrunk into a corner of the living room. "Don't come out until I say it's okay." Adjusting the shawl over her shoulders, Martha went out to receive the visitors. Thunder, the black buffalo, had disappeared again, as if he could sense danger. "Mrs. Martha Wilson?" Alan's voice was smooth, polite, with that confidence of someone who rarely hears no as an answer. "I apologize for the unannounced visit, but I'm looking for my daughter. I have reason to believe she's here." Martha studied the man before her. Tall, perfectly trimmed grey hair, practiced smile that didn't reach his eyes. A man accustomed to command, not to ask. "And why do you—" "Believe that," she replied, maintaining her upright posture despite her short stature. Alan's smile faltered slightly. "One of my employees saw her being brought here last night, during the storm." Martha raised an eyebrow. "The road leading to her property was rarely travelled, especially during a storm. Curious that your employees would be around here on such a terrible night, Mr. Vincent." The burly man beside Alan took a step forward, but Vincent stopped him with a subtle gesture. "We were all looking for her since she disappeared the day before yesterday. Lily is sensitive, Ma'am. She has a very fertile imagination and sometimes confuses reality with fantasy." He sighed, a convincing performance of paternal concern. "She needs special care, regular medication. Please, if she's here." "And if she is?" Martha interrupted, her voice firm. "The girl arrived here terrified, trapped in debris during a storm." Vincent smiled again, this time with a calculated gleam in his eyes. "Then I am deeply grateful to you for saving her. But now I need to take her home where she belongs." Something in the way he said "belongs" made Martha shudder internally. "I believe it would be better to take her to the town hospital first for an evaluation. I can accompany you if you prefer." A shadow crossed Vincent's face, quickly replaced by a neutral expression. "That won't be necessary, we have a private doctor." The silent impasse that followed was interrupted by the sound of the house door opening. Lily appeared, pale but determined. "I'm not going back, Dad." Alan Vincent knelt down, opening his arms with a smile that perfectly matched the public image of the successful businessman and loving father. "Lily, dear, you've made everyone very worried. We'll talk about what happened at home, okay?" The cha-cha-sai. Girl didn't move. "You said you were going to get rid of them. I saw the documents. I saw what you do in barn number 3. Vincent's face paled for a second before he could recompose his mask of serenity. "You see, Mrs. Wilson, this is what I'm talking about, stories, fantasies." He stood up, adjusting his suit. "Lily, get in the car now." The authoritative tone made the girl step back, but she remained firm. "I don't want to go. Mrs. Wilson is going to take me to the hospital, and there I'll tell everything to the police." The security guard took another step forward, but Martha positioned herself between him and the girl. "Mr. Vincent, perhaps it's better we resolve this with the authorities present." Alan stiffened, but his voice remained controlled. "Mrs. Wilson, I don't have time for games. This is my daughter, and I'll take her home. If you interfere, I might interpret it as kidnapping, and I have enough influence in this town to make this very unpleasant for you." Martha held the man's gaze without faltering. "Threats don't work on me, Mr. Vincent. I've seen too much in this life to be intimidated by fancy words." For a moment, Alan's civilized mask seemed about to fall. His jaw tightened, veins bulged in his neck. But before anything could happen, a resounding sound cut through the air, the heavy snort of thunder who suddenly appeared behind the house, majestic and threatening. The security guard drew a weapon, but Alan quickly intervened. "Put that away. That's the patriarch. That animal is worth more than your 10-year salary." He turned to Martha, genuinely perplexed. "How did that animal end up here?" "He followed me," said Lily, with renewed confidence due to the buffalo's presence. "He always finds me." Alan looked from his daughter to the animal, an indecipherable expression on his face. At Pine Ridge Municipal Hospital, the arrival of an elderly woman, a young girl, and a prestigious local businessman caused a stir among the staff. Even more surprising was the report that a buffalo had accompanied the unusual group to the entrance of the parking lot, where it mysteriously disappeared among the nearby trees. In the small examination room, Dr. Edward Thompson was examining Lily attentively, while Martha watched every movement, and Alan Vincent waited impatiently near the door, his cell phone constantly vibrating in his pocket. "Well, the little one has some bruises, but nothing serious. I'll prescribe a mild anti-inflammatory and—" the doctor began, but was interrupted when the door abruptly opened. A tall man with graying hair wearing a lab coat entered the examination room. His expression changed when he recognized Vincent. "Alan," he said coldly. "Chris," Vincent replied. Equally dry. "What are you doing here? I thought your shift was during the night." Dr. Chris Nelson ignored the question, turning to Lily with a gentle smile. "Hello, little one. We haven't seen each other since you were 5. He looked at the chart in Dr. Thompson's hands. "May I?" After a quick nod from his colleague, Chris examined the document and frowned. Bruises consistent with compression. "What happened, Lily?" The girl hesitated, nervously looking at her father. "She fell during the storm," Alan hastened to explain. "Always been clumsy. Thanks for your concern, Chris, but Dr. Thompson is already handling the case." Chris didn't move. His eyes met Martha's, and something silent was communicated between them. "Mrs. Martha Wilson, right? I remember you from the rural vaccination campaigns. Were you the one who found the girl?" Martha nodded. "During the storm, she was trapped under a derailed train car." "And was she alone?" The question seemed casual, but Chris's gaze was intense. "No," answered Martha, without hesitation. "There was a buffalo with her, a huge black animal." Alan let out a forced laugh. "Buffaloes don't accompany children, Mrs. Wilson. It was probably one of mine that escaped during the storm. By the way, I appreciate you finding him. The patriarch is a valuable breeder." "His name is Thunder," Lily interrupted, her voice small, but firm. "And he doesn't belong to you, Dad. He chooses who he'll protect." An awkward silence fell over the room. Dr. Thompson coughed nervously, clearly uncomfortable with the growing tension. "Well, as I was saying, physically the girl is fine. She can go home, but I recommend rest for a few days." "Thank you, Doctor," said Alan, extending his hand to Lily. "Let's go, daughter." But Lily didn't move. "I want to stay with Mrs. Wilson." "Don't be ridiculous," Alan retorted, his patience visibly wearing thin. "Your place is at home, with your family." "Her place is where she feels safe," Martha intervened, her voice calm but unshakable. "And clearly it's not with you." Alan's posture subtly changed, a veiled threat in every tense muscle. "Don't test my patience, Mom. Lily is my daughter, and will come with me even if I have to call the police and accuse you of kidnapping." It was Chris's turn to intervene. "I'd like to remind you that we're in a hospital, Alan. If there's any suspicion that the child is at risk, we have a legal obligation to notify Child Protective Services." "Suspicion based on what?" Vincent challenged. "On her drawings, for starters." Everyone turned to the examination table, where Lily had been drawing while waiting. On the paper, shadowy figures surrounded animals in cages, a barn with the number 3 prominently displayed, and a black buffalo watching everything from a distance. Alan visibly paled. "Childish fantasies." "Perhaps," agreed Chris, "but enough to justify a deeper investigation." At that moment, the door opened again, and a woman of about 30 entered. Tall, with dark hair and an athletic build, she wore worn jeans and a leather jacket. Her eyes scanned the room, stopping on Lily. "Melissa!" the girl exclaimed, running to embrace the newcomer. "Hey, Squirt!" the woman smiled, hugging her sister tightly before facing her father. "Alan, what are you doing here?" Vincent asked, his voice suddenly harsh. "How did you know?" Melissa smiled, a cold smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Lily sent me a message through the Buffalo Protection Forum. Clever, right? She knew you'd never monitor those groups." "You have no right." "I have every right," Melissa cut him off. "I'm her sister, and unlike you, I don't intend to leave her alone while you conduct your shady business." The tension between father and daughter was palpable. Dr. Thompson seemed about to call security, but Chris stopped him with a gesture. "If I may," Martha intervened, "I suggest we all calm down. What's important is Lily's welfare." Melissa nodded, keeping her younger sister close to her. "I completely agree, Mrs. Wilson, and that's why I'm here." She turned to her father. "I know what's happening in Barn 3, Dad, and in the underground. Labs. I know about the chips, the illegal cloning, and the falsified documents." Alan's face transformed into a stone mask. "You've always been troublesome, Melissa, always making up stories to get attention." "Stories?" Then why was Dr. Parker seen in Wyoming with animals that supposedly died 2 years ago? Why do animals with the same DNA appear in different competitions, under different owners? Why does Thunder, your precious patriarch, have 2 distinct identifications? Alan took a threatening step toward his elder daughter, but Chris positioned himself between them. I believe we have enough for a formal investigation, Alan. I suggest you cooperate. For the first time, the businessman seemed genuinely shaken. His gaze wandered from his elder daughter to his younger one, then to the doctors, and finally to Martha. Night fell over Martha Wilson's ranch like a blanket of silence. In the kitchen, illuminated by the yellowish light of an old lamp, 4 people formed an unlikely alliance. Martha with her herbal tea, Melissa leafing through documents spread on the table, Dr. Chris analyzing data on his laptop, and Lily asleep on the old living room couch, exhausted after the day's events. At the hospital, Alan Vincent had backed down. Temporarily, everyone knew after Melissa presented documents proving her shared custody of Lily. A legal battle would be certain, but for now, the girl was safe. It started about 5 years ago, Melissa explained, her voice low so as not to wake her sister. My father was always obsessed with results, with being the best. His breeding operation gained national fame for the genetic quality of the animals, but it wasn't enough. Animal cloning isn't illegal in itself, observed Chris, as long as it's properly documented and approved by the competent authorities. Melissa nodded. The problem isn't the cloning, it's the fraud. They developed a system to duplicate prize-winning animals, registering them as descendants when, in fact, they are identical copies of the original. And what would be the purpose of this? Asked Martha. Money, mainly. A prize-winning breeder can be worth millions. Imagine being able to sell the same animal multiple times to different buyers in different countries, each believing they have the only one. Chris adjusted his glasses, his expression grave. This explains why I was abruptly removed from the breeding operation. I had begun to question the frequency of genetic coincidences I observed in the reports. But what does Lily have to do with this? Martha inquired, looking at the sleeping girl. Melissa sighed, running a hand through her hair. Lily has a gift with animals, always has. They respond to her in an unusual way. My father noticed this early on and began using her in collection sessions for assisted reproduction. The buffaloes were calmer with her around. And Thunder, or Patriarch as your father calls him? A sad smile appeared on Melissa's face. Thunder is special. He was the first animal we raised when I was still a teenager. He has a unique connection with Lily, almost as if she hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with what she was about to say, as if he understood, as if he were more than an animal. Melissa shook her head. I know it sounds crazy. After what I witnessed during the storm, I don't think it's crazy, Martha commented, pouring more tea. That buffalo helped save Lily as if he knew exactly what he was doing. Chris remained silent for a moment, absorbing the information. According to my records, the Patriarch, or Thunder as you call him, should have been put down 2 years ago. He's listed as sacrificed after a leg injury. But clearly, he's alive. And healthy. That's the point, Melissa stated, pulling a folder from her backpack. It's not just about cloning or irregular sales. They're falsifying death certificates for animals to reintroduce them into the market with new identities. It's an international operation, with branches in Wyoming, Utah, and even in Europe. Martha examined the documents carefully. Photographs, veterinary records, printed emails, and Barn 3 that Lily mentioned? That's where the unofficial procedures happen, Melissa explained, her voice tense. Lily discovered it by accident. She was looking for Thunder, who had disappeared for days. She ended up witnessing something she shouldn't have. What exactly? Chris questioned. An identification chip being removed from an allegedly dead animal, to be replaced by another with false data. Dr. Victor Parker, my father's partner, was supervising the procedure. A noise from outside made everyone fall silent. Melissa immediately stood up, moving to the window with the caution of someone accustomed to dangerous situations. Nothing visible, she murmured, but we need to be cautious. My father isn't the type of man who accepts defeats." As if responding to her words, Melissa's cell phone vibrated with an incoming message. Her face paled as she read the content. "What is it?" Martha asked, concerned. "A veiled threat," Melissa replied, showing the phone screen. "Photo of my house with the door broken down and a message. Family should stay together. There's still time to make the right choice." Chris frowned. "We need to take this to the police." "And say what?" "The word of a troubled former rodeo competitor against that of Alan Vincent, the town benefactor." Melissa laughed humorlessly. "We need concrete evidence, not just suspicions." At that moment, Lily awoke with a start in the living room, a muffled scream escaping her lips. "Thunder, he's in danger." The three adults rushed to the living room, finding the girl pale and trembling. "It was just a nightmare, dear," Martha tried to calm her. "No, it wasn't," Lily insisted, tears streaming down her face. "I saw it. They're in Barn 3 with Thunder. They're going to remove his chip and replace it, like they did with the others." Melissa and Chris exchanged worried glances. "How do you know this, Lily?" Melissa asked gently. "I always know. I've always known. It's like he tells me things in my head." The girl held her sister's hands. "You have to believe me, Melissa. They're going to do something terrible to him, and then they're coming." "After us?" Chris crouched beside the girl. "Lily, can you describe exactly what you saw?" The girl closed her eyes, concentrating. "I saw Dr. Parker with white gloves. Uncle Victor was talking to Dad, but they were fighting." Lily described the scene with disturbing precision. Thunder was sedated on the metal table. There were markings around him, and the chip scanner was on. Melissa hugged her younger sister, while Chris took notes. The doctor's expression oscillated between professional skepticism and amazement. "It's incredible how the details she describes are consistent with an actual chip implantation procedure," he murmured to Martha. "Uncle Victor said they needed to get rid of the walking evidence," Lily continued. "He said Thunder knew too much and was becoming a problem." "A buffalo knowing too much?" Chris gently questioned. "What does that mean, Lily?" The girl looked at him with a seriousness beyond her years. "Thunder isn't like the others. He remembers. He connects people. He brought me to Mrs. Wilson when I ran away. And he led Melissa to the barn when she was investigating." Melissa confirmed with a nod. "It's true. 2 years ago, when I began to suspect my father's operations, I followed Thunder by chance. He led me exactly to the back entrance of Barn 3, where I witnessed a suspicious transaction." "Coincidence," suggested Chris, but without much conviction. "Maybe," Martha intervened, "or maybe there are things in this world that science doesn't yet fully explain. The important thing now is that Lily believes Thunder is in danger, and considering everything we've seen, we should take this seriously." The rain had started again outside, gently hitting the windows of the old house. "We need to act," Melissa decided. "But we need to be smart. My father controls half the town, police, mayor's office, local press. If we go with accusations without concrete evidence, we'll not only be discredited, but we may suffer worse consequences." "And what evidence do we need exactly?" asked Martha. "Thunder's original chip, for starters," Chris replied. "If we can prove that the same animal has 2 different chips, registered in distinct systems, we'll have tangible evidence of fraud." "And how do you plan to enter the Vincent Ranch to get that?" "The place is more heavily guarded than a bank," Martha argued. Everyone fell silent, facing the seemingly insurmountable challenge. That's when Lily quietly slipped off the couch and walked to the kitchen, returning with a drawing. "We don't I need to enter through the front," she said, unfolding the paper. "We can use the old passages." Melissa took the drawing, studying it with growing interest. It was a detailed map of the region, showing the Vincent property, Martha's ranch, and a series of winding trails between them. "Where did you get this?" "Lily?" "I found it hidden in Dad's library. He doesn't know I took it. They're the old trails from when they transported things without people knowing." Martha approached, adjusting her glasses to examine the map. "Abandoned railroad tunnels," she murmured, recognizing some points. "During Prohibition, these paths were used for smuggling, and later during the Cold War years for moving people, persecuted by the authorities. My late husband told me stories about these tunnels and passages. That would explain how Thunder managed to reach Lily so quickly during the storm, reflected Chris. He knows these paths. Melissa traced a route with her finger. If this map is correct, there's an entrance to the tunnels not far from here, and an exit that leads directly to the back of Barn 3. Sounds like the perfect scenario for an ambush, warned Chris. Or our only chance to obtain evidence, countered Melissa. With this storm, security will be more relaxed. Most employees have already gone home. It's now or never. The determination on Melissa's face was contagious, but Martha maintained caution. And what do we do with Lily? We can't expose her to this danger. She stays here with you, Melissa promptly decided. Dr. Chris and I will investigate. We have medical experience and knowledge of the ranch, respectively. Lily protested immediately. No, I need to go too. Thunder will only trust me. He'll be scared if he doesn't see me. It's too dangerous, Lily, Melissa tried to argue. More dangerous is Thunder reacting and alerting everyone to our presence, the girl responded with surprising logic. He only stays calm with me. A heavy silence fell over the room as the adults considered the child's words. Finally, it was Martha who spoke. We'll all go. Mrs. Wilson, with all due respect, I'm the only one who knows those trails. Beyond what's on the map, the elderly woman interrupted firmly. My Robert was a guide in those passages in the 70s. I know the markings, the landmarks. Without me, you could get lost down there. The rain intensified, turning into a storm almost as strong as the one that had brought Lily days before. It seemed like a sign, a cyclic repetition suggesting something important was coming. We have to go now, Lily insisted, her gaze distant. They're going to move him soon, I feel. Chris began gathering equipment. Flashlights, his portable medical kit, the microchip scanner he used at the veterinary clinic. Melissa checked her cell phone, making sure the camera and recorder were working. If we can get concrete evidence, she explained, I have a contact in the FBI, someone outside my father's influence. Martha disappeared into the back room, returning minutes later with clothes suitable for the expedition and a worn leather bag. Complimentary maps, she explained, showing the contents of the bag, and something that might be useful if we encounter resistance. Melissa looked curiously at the small metal object. It's a special whistle, Martha explained. Robert used it for emergency communication in the tunnels. The sound travels in a peculiar way in those passages. Outside, lightning cut across the sky, briefly illuminating the ranch yard. For an instant, they all could have sworn they saw the imposing silhouette of a buffalo standing in the rain, watching them. The storm was punishing the Montana highlands as the small group followed the muddy path. Martha Wilson led, surprisingly agile for her age, with an old flashlight illuminating the route. Melissa came right behind, alert to any suspicious movement in the shadows. Chris and Lily closed the group, the doctor constantly checking if the girl could keep up with the pace. It's just over there, Martha announced, pointing to a rock formation partially covered by vegetation. The entrance is behind those ferns. As they approached, what appeared to be just a pile of rocks revealed itself as the entrance to a narrow tunnel, skillfully camouflaged by nature and time. My husband used to say these tunnels are older than the town itself, Martha commented, as she pushed aside the plants. Some were built by early settlers, others by smugglers. Over time they were connected and expanded. The opening was low, requiring them to bend to enter. The air inside was humid and heavy, with a smell of wet earth and forgotten history. Watch out for the floor, Martha warned. Some parts might be unstable with all this rain. As they advanced, the tunnel widened, revealing a surprisingly well-constructed system. Marks on the walls indicated directions, ancient symbols that Martha interpreted with ease. This mark means we're on the right route to the Vincent property, she explained, illuminating a worn drawing that vaguely resembled a horn. Curious. What is it? Asked Melissa. This specific symbol. Robert said it was used to mark safe routes for those carrying secrets. I never fully understood what it meant. Lily, who had been silent, suddenly pointed to the opposite wall. Look, it looks like thunder. On the stone surface, partially covered by moss, was a primitive drawing of a large animal, similar to a bovine, with exaggerated horns. "Cave art, perhaps," commented Chris, examining it more closely. "Or some sign left by previous users of these tunnels." "It's him," Lily insisted. "It's how he shows himself to me in dreams." The adults exchanged glances, but no one contested the girl. After recent events, who could say what was or wasn't possible? They continued advancing, the tunnel occasionally bifurcating. At each crossroads, Martha consulted both her map and the markings on the walls before choosing the path. "We're close to the Vincent property," she announced after about half an hour of walking. "This part of the tunnel passes directly under the ranch borders." The environment began to change subtly. The earthen walls gave way to reinforced structures, with old wooden beams supporting the ceiling. Here and there, objects abandoned long. Ergo, broken lanterns, rusted tools, a solitary boot almost completely decomposed. "Vestiges of the time when these tunnels were actively used," Martha explained. "During the Cold War, many people escaped through here." A distant sound made everyone stop abruptly. "What was that?" Melissa whispered. They stood motionless, listening. The sound repeated, a rhythmic beating like hooves on the earthen floor. "Thunder," murmured Lily, her face lighting up. "He's trying to find us." "Or someone is following us," countered Chris, tensing. Martha raised her hand, asking for silence. With surprising agility, the elderly woman climbed onto a ledge in the tunnel wall, pressing her ear against the ceiling. "We're exactly under the southern limit of the property," she informed as she descended. "If the map is correct, there's an exit about 200 yards ahead that will lead us to a point between the woods and Barn 3. The sound of hooves became closer, echoing off the tunnel walls. "If it's Thunder, he won't be able to follow us." "From here on," observed Melissa, "the tunnel gets increasingly narrow." "He'll find another way," Lily stated with absolute certainty. "He always finds a way." They advanced with redoubled caution. The tunnel, as predicted, became tighter. In some places they needed to pass sideways, with their backs scraping one wall and their chests almost touching the other. "There," Martha finally pointed to a metal ladder fixed to the wall, leading to a hatch in the tunnel ceiling. "That's our exit." Melissa was the first to climb, testing each rusty rung before trusting her weight to it. Upon reaching the top, she gently pushed the hatch. "It's stuck," she whispered, "and there seems to be something on top of it." Chris climbed up to help, and together they applied enough force to move what appeared to be a heavy wooden box that was on top of the exit. The hatch finally yielded, revealing a dark, enclosed environment. One by one, they emerged from the tunnel, finding themselves in what appeared to be an abandoned storage room. Stacked boxes created a maze of improvised corridors, the smell of mold mixed with chemical odors. "We're inside the property," confirmed Melissa, recognizing the place. "This is one of the old storage rooms, rarely used now. Barn 3 should be less than 100 yards from here." Lily went to a small dust-covered window, cleaning a circle with her sleeve to look outside. "I can see the lights of the barn," she informed, "and there are people inside. I see shadows moving." "How are we going to do this?" asked Chris, checking the microchip scanner in his bag. "We can't just invade." "We don't need to," Melissa replied, showing her cell phone. "If we can get close enough, I can use the camera zoom to record what they're doing, and if I recognize the voices, I can record the conversations." "And what about Thunder?" questioned Lily, worried. "We came to help him, remember?" Martha placed her hand on the girl's shoulder. "First, we need to understand exactly what's happening, Lily. Then we can help Thunder in the best way possible." A sudden noise from outside made them all instinctively duck. Headlights from a vehicle briefly illuminated the interior of the storage room through the dirty windows. "Someone's arrived," whispered Melissa. "Let's approach carefully." Moving silently between the boxes, they reached the storage room door. Melissa opened it minimally, creating a gap to observe. What they saw made their hearts race. Alan Vincent was getting out of a luxury pickup truck, accompanied by Dr. Victor Parker, and two robust-looking men carrying medical equipment. All were heading to Barn 3, whose lights shone intensely in the rainy night. "It's now," Melissa determined, checking if her camera was ready. "We're going to find out what really happens in that barn." The rain provided perfect camouflage as the group moved quickly between the shadows. The muddy terrain made progress difficult, but also muffled the sound of their steps. Melissa led now, knowledgeable about the property where she had grown up. "The barn has 2 main entrances and 1 emergency exit in the back," she explained in a low voice. "If we're lucky, the back door will be just locked, with no alarms." "And if we're not lucky?" questioned Chris. Melissa just gave him a meaningful look without answering. They approached the barn from the least illuminated side, staying low behind some abandoned agricultural equipment. The building was larger than it appeared from a distance, an imposing structure of metal and concrete with high, narrow windows. There, Melissa pointed to a small window near the ground, partially obscured by bushes. "That's the window to the locker room. We can see inside from there without being noticed." Crawling through the mud, the group reached the indicated position. Chris helped discreetly clean the foggy glass, creating an opening through which they could observe. The interior of the barn revealed itself to be completely different from what its external appearance suggested. Instead of the expected rustic environment of a common agricultural barn, they saw a sophisticated laboratory, state-of-the-art medical equipment, computers, monitors displaying real-time data, and in the center of it all, a veterinary surgical table where a large animal was immobilized. "Thunder," Lily whispered, immediately recognizing the black buffalo. The animal was sedated, but his legs occasionally moved, as if he were dreaming. Around him, Alan Vincent and Dr. Parker were animatedly conversing, while the 2 assistants prepared surgical instruments. "Can you hear what they're saying?" Martha asked. Melissa shook her head. "Too low. We need to get closer." Chris pointed to a device near the surgical table. "That's a high-precision microchip implantation and reading equipment. It costs a fortune and is normally only found in advanced research centers." Lily pulled on Melissa's sleeve, pointing to a more remote corner of the barn. "Look, there are others." Following her gaze, the group saw something disturbing, a series of improvised stalls where other buffaloes were confined. Unlike the normal stables of the breeding operation, this space looked more like a containment laboratory. "They're all marked with numbers instead of names," observed Martha. Melissa began to methodically photograph everything with her cell phone, taking care not to use flash. "This is odd," commented Chris, observing more attentively. "Those animals look identical, even for buffaloes of the same lineage. The resemblance is unnatural." Inside the barn, the tension between Alan and Victor became more evident. Their voices rose enough for fragments of the conversation to be heard from outside. "We can't just discard him." Alan's voice sounded exasperated. "He's the original. The entire operation depends on his genetic material." "It's too risky to keep him," Victor replied, gesturing nervously. "After your daughter disappeared with him, he became an unstable variable, and now he returns as if he had been guided." "Superstitions," Alan dismissed. "He's just an animal." Victor shook his head, disagreeing. "An animal that always appears at critical moments. That manages to escape from maximum security facilities. That always finds your daughter when she's in danger. No, Alan, there's something more happening here." The debate was interrupted when one of the assistants approached with a tray containing syringes and surgical instruments. "We're ready for the procedure, Dr. Parker." Victor nodded, putting on surgical gloves. "Let's proceed with the removal of the original chip and implantation of the new one. Then we'll modify the natural markings in the coat pattern to match the new identity." Outside, Lily gripped Melissa's arm tightly. "They're going to hurt Thunder," she whispered, distressed. "We need to stop them." "We have to be smart, Lily," Melissa replied, trying to stay calm. "If we invade now, we won't have any way to prove anything. We need—" A phone rang inside the barn, interrupting the procedures. Alan answered it, his face gradually losing color as he listened. "Are you sure about this?" he asked the interlocutor. "All cameras checked, and the external patrols?" He hung up, turning to Victor with a grave expression. "We have intruders on the property." The security cameras detected movement near the old storage room, and there are recent footprints in the mud, coming from the abandoned tunnels. The four observers exchanged alarmed glances. Their presence had been detected. "We need to get out of here now," Chris whispered urgently. Melissa, however, remained motionless, her gaze fixed on the interior of the barn. "Not yet. We need to see the original chip. It's our concrete evidence." Inside the barn, tension was growing. "Who could know about the tunnels?" Victor questioned, visibly nervous. "Melissa," Alan answered, clenching his fists. "She always knew too much. And now with Lily and that meddling old woman. What do we do with him?" Victor pointed to Thunder, still sedated on the table. "Finish the procedure quickly, I'll deal with the intruders." Alan made a gesture to the two assistants, who immediately left their posts to follow him. The three left through a side door, leaving Victor alone with the buffalo. "We have to intervene," decided Melissa, putting away her phone. "If he removes the chip, we lose our main evidence." "But what about your father? He's coming this way with 2 henchmen," Chris reminded. "Exactly. Why we need to act now," Melissa retorted. "While they're searching the storage rooms, we have a chance to capture Victor red-handed." Martha, who had been silently observing, suddenly touched Lily's arm. "Where's Thunder?" Everyone looked again at the interior. The surgical table was empty. Victor was looking around, confused and alarmed, the scalpel still in his hand. "How is this possible?" murmured Chris. "The animal was sedated." It was then that they heard it, a heavy and familiar snort coming from behind them. Turning slowly, they faced Thunder, imposing under the rain, his eyes fixed on the 4 intruders. "He found us," Lily smiled, extending her hand to touch the wet muzzle of the buffalo. Time seemed suspended as Thunder approached the group, his steps surprisingly silent for such a large animal. There was no fear in his eyes, only an intensity that Melissa immediately recognized. "He wants us to follow him," Lily stated with conviction, already moving in the direction indicated by the animal. None of the adults contested. After everything they had witnessed, the special connection between Lily and Thunder was undeniable. Moving quickly, the group followed the buffalo, who guided them with clear purpose across the property. "Where is he taking us?" Chris asked, his voice low as they ran crouched between wet bushes. "Seems like we're going around the barn," answered Melissa. "Maybe there's another entrance we don't know about." Thunder stopped abruptly, raising his head. At the same instant, headlights cut through the darkness to the right, briefly, illuminating the area where they had been seconds before. Alan's pickup truck passed slowly, the occupants clearly searching for intruders. "That was close," murmured Martha, her heart racing. When the headlights disappeared around the bend, Thunder resumed his journey, leading them to a smaller structure almost hidden behind the main barn. A small brick building, with an old and abandoned appearance. The original laboratory, Melissa recognized. This is where it all began, before the expansion. It's been deactivated for years. Thunder pushed a rusty metal door with his muzzle, which opened with a soft creak. The interior was dark and dusty, but surprisingly clean of cobwebs or debris, as if someone visited it regularly. "Are we looking for something specific?" asked Chris, illuminating the environment with his flashlight. Martha carefully observed Thunder's movements. "I think he knows exactly what he wants to show us." The buffalo advanced to the back of the room, where he pushed a metal shelf with his head. The furniture moved with ease, revealing a hidden door. "Amazing," murmured Chris. "How did he know about this?" "Maybe he was brought here before," suggested Melissa, approaching the door. "Or maybe what Lily always said is true, that he simply knows things." The door wasn't locked. Behind it, they found a smaller room, a veritable improvised archive. Shelves covered the walls, filled with chronologically organized folders. In the center, a table with an old computer covered by a protective cover. "This is where my father keeps the original records," Melissa realized, examining the labels on the folders, the ones that are never shown during official inspections. Lily approached Thunder, affectionately caressing his neck. "How did you know, big guy?" she whispered. The animal just lowered his head, as if responding in his own way. Melissa began to methodically photograph each document she found. "This is a gold mine," she commented. "Duplicate records, false certificates, unauthorized cloning reports. Everything we need is here." "Even better," added Chris, who had turned on the computer. "Complete databases of all processed animals, including dates, procedures, destinations, and who participated in each operation." "Can we copy this?" asked Martha. "I'm already doing it," replied Chris, connecting a flash drive. "But it's going to take a few minutes." Thunder, who had been quiet by the door, suddenly raised his head, his ears alert. A second later they all heard it, voices approaching. "Damn, they're coming this way," Melissa warned. "We have to finish this quickly." "The files haven't been fully copied yet," informed Chris, anxiously looking at the progress bar on the screen. "How much longer?" 2 minutes, maybe 3. The voices became clearer. Alan and his 2 assistants were just a few yards from the entrance to the abandoned laboratory. "We don't have that time," said Martha. "We need a distraction." Lily looked at Thunder, a silent communication seeming to pass between them. "He can help," she stated, "but we all need to leave together when it's done." Melissa hesitated, then nodded. "I trust you, Lily." "And him." The girl whispered something in the buffalo's ear, who immediately left through the door, disappearing down the corridor. Seconds later, they heard shouts of surprise and alarm. "The Patriarch! How did he escape?" Alan's voice sounded simultaneously furious and frightened. "Follow him, don't let him leave the property." Hurried footsteps indicated that the men had changed direction, pursuing Thunder. "It worked," murmured Martha, relieved. "Done," exclaimed Chris, removing the flash drive. "I have everything." "Let's get out of here," Melissa decided, putting away her cell phone after photographing the last physical documents. "Thunder is giving us time, but it won't last long." They cautiously left the abandoned laboratory. The rain had diminished to a fine drizzle, but the darkness continued to be their best ally. Guided by Melissa's memory, the group circled the main barn, heading for the most vulnerable point in the perimeter fence. They were almost reaching their goal when headlights appeared again, this time accompanied by the roar of several engines. "Reinforcements," murmured Melissa, pulling everyone behind a machinery shed. "My father must have called more security." They watched tensely as 3 pickup trucks entered the property, each carrying at least 2 men. "The situation has gotten complicated," noted Chris. "With so many men searching the place, our chances of leaving unnoticed are minimal." "And what about Thunder?" asked Lily, worried. "He's still in there." Melissa was trying to formulate a plan when her cell phone vibrated. It was a message from an unknown number. "Abandoned mill, midnight. Come alone with the evidence if you want to see your little sister again." Her blood froze. She looked at Lily, who was right beside her, and then understood. It was a trap. Someone, probably her father, was trying to separate them. "What is it?" asked Martha, noticing Melissa's paleness. Melissa showed the message. An obvious trap. "Lily is here with us." "But why the mill?" questioned Chris. "It's an isolated location, perfect for an ambush," explained Melissa. "It's about 3 miles from here, at the limit of the old family property, almost at the border with the neighboring county." An idea began to form in her mind. "This could be useful," she murmured. "If they believe I'm going to the mill alone, we'll have time to get you and the evidence to a safe place." "No," protested Martha. "It's too risky." "I have a contact." "In the FBI," explained Melissa. "With this evidence, he can obtain a search and arrest warrant in a matter of hours, but I need to buy time." A sudden noise made them all turn. Thunder had returned, panting but apparently unharmed. "Thunder!" Lily ran to embrace the animal's neck. "You're okay." Melissa made a decision. "I'll respond to the message, pretending to accept the meeting. Meanwhile, you 3 go with Thunder back through the tunnels. Take the evidence to town and look for Agent Richard Lawrence. He'll know what to do." "And what about you?" asked Chris, concerned. "I'll go to the mill, but not alone," replied Melissa, a determined gleam in her eyes, "and I won't make it easy for them." "He's warning us," whispered Lily, interpreting the buffalo's body language. "We need to leave. Now." As if to confirm her words, Thunder moved his head in the direction opposite to the barn, snorting softly. The abandoned mill stood out against the night sky like a sentinel forgotten by time. The moon, occasionally visible between scattered clouds, cast elongated shadows through the motionless blades of the old structure. Melissa parked her pickup truck at a safe distance, carefully observing the location through binoculars. As she expected, she wasn't alone. Two familiar trucks were already strategically positioned around the mill, her father's and Victor Parker's. Clear sign that the ambush was set. Predictable, she murmured to herself, checking her cell phone. A message from Agent Lawrence confirmed that Martha, Chris and Lily had safely arrived at the FBI office in Helena. The evidence was being analyzed, and an operation was already being organized. Just by time, said the final message. Time. Exactly what she needed to get. With determination, Melissa got out of the vehicle, taking only a small backpack with her. She wore dark clothes that camouflaged in the night, sturdy boots suitable for any need for a quick escape. Years competing in rodeos had given her not only physical strength, but a deep knowledge of how to move in the dark, how to read the terrain. She approached the mill from an unexpected angle, avoiding the main entrance where there would certainly be surveillance. A partially broken side window offered access to the interior of the first floor. The smell of mildew and rotting wood filled her nostrils as she sneaked silently between abandoned machinery. Muffled voices came from the upper floor. She immediately recognized her father's authoritative timbre and Victor's obsequious tone. "She'll come," Alan stated confidently. "Melissa has always been predictable in her obstinacy. It's her weakness." "And if she brings the police?" Victor's voice revealed nervousness. A dry laugh echoed through the wooden walls. "With what evidence? Do you think I didn't check the old laboratory? All compromising files have been removed. Whatever they managed to get is insufficient for a police operation." Melissa smiled in the dark. Her father severely underestimated what they had discovered. The digital backups contained in the flash drive were much more comprehensive than any physical file that might have been removed. She reached the foot of the stairs leading to the second floor, stepping carefully to prevent the old wood from creaking under her weight. The voices became clearer. "The deadline is running out," Victor observed, tense. "Our contact in Wyoming is getting impatient. If we don't deliver the new specimens by the end of the week, the entire shipment will be cancelled." "We'll have everything resolved by then," Alan assured. "As soon as Melissa is out of the way, we'll resume operations. The Patriarch will be processed as planned, and the clones will be transported without problems." "And the girl, your younger daughter?" A heavy silence followed the question. When Alan finally responded, his voice had lost some of its usual confidence. "Lily is complicated, always has been. Just like her mother." "She knows too much," insisted Victor. "And this strange connection with the buffalo." "Superstitions," Alan dismissed. "Lily will be in a boarding school in Switzerland until everything calms down, far from that animal and these fanciful stories." Melissa felt her blood boil. The plan to send Lily away was final confirmation of her father's calculated cruelty. She took a deep breath, controlling her anger. This wasn't the time for emotions. She needed to be strategic. She checked her watch. There were 15 minutes left until the scheduled meeting time. Agent Lawrence had asked for at least half an hour to position his teams. She needed to keep buying time. Carefully, she climbed a few steps, just enough to peek at the upper floor through a crack in the floorboard. She managed to visualize 3 people, her father, Victor, and a third man she recognized as one of the ranch's security guards. She silently returned to the ground floor, preparing for the next phase of her plan. That's when an unexpected sound froze her blood, the characteristic snort of a large animal coming from outside the mill. "Thunder," she whispered in disbelief. It wasn't possible. The buffalo should be with Lily, safely in town. Unless... "Did you hear that?" Victor's alert voice came from above. Heavy footsteps indicated that someone was coming down to investigate. Melissa quickly retreated into the shadows, hiding behind an old grinding machine. The security guard appeared on the ground floor, flashlight in one hand, gun in the other. He methodically moved the light beam across the space, approaching dangerously, close to her hiding spot. The snort repeated louder this time, drawing the man's attention outside the mill. When he moved away to check, Melissa seized the opportunity to change position, finding a new hiding spot with a better view of the stairs. "The Patriarch is here," shouted the guard from outside. "I don't know how, but he followed us." Melissa heard the hurried footsteps of her father and Victor coming down the stairs. As they passed her, she noticed something that made her shudder. Victor was carrying a medical case similar to the one she had seen in Barn 3. "How is this possible?" Victor questioned, nervous. "That animal should be contained." "It doesn't matter," Alan responded coldly. "Actually, this simplifies things. We can perform the procedure right here." The two men left the mill, following the security guard. Melissa moved cautiously to a side window, from where she could observe without being seen. In the partial clarity of the moonlight, Thunder remained motionless, majestic and defiant. His dark eyes seemed fixed on the approaching group, showing no fear. "It's almost as if he were expecting us," commented Victor, a clear tremor in his voice. "Sedate him," Alan ordered the security guard, who prepared a tranquilizer gun. Melissa needed to intervene. She couldn't allow them to capture Thunder again. But before she could act, something surprising happened. Headlights appeared on the road, not just one or two vehicles, but a complete caravan. Sirens began to sound, breaking the silence of the night. "FBI, freeze!" Agent Lawrence's amplified voice echoed across the location. Alan's face transformed into a mask of shock and fury. "Impossible! How did they get a warrant so quickly?" Melissa finally emerged from the shadows, walking calmly to the entrance of the mill. "Hello, Dad. Seems like your calculations failed." "You?" Alan turned, surprised. How did I know about the ambush? How did I get the evidence? Or how did the police arrive so quickly?" Melissa smiled. "The answer to all these questions is simpler than you imagine." At that moment, from the top of a nearby hill, a small figure appeared beside an older one. Lily and Martha Wilson were observing the scene, protected by federal agents. Next to them, Chris was talking with a team of experts. "You think you know everything and everyone," Melissa continued as agents surrounded her father and Victor. "But you never really knew your own family. You never understood the bond between Lily and Thunder, or why Mom and I left home. You never realized there are things more important than money or prestige." Alan, for the first time Melissa could remember, seemed speechless, his arrogance crumbling before the reality of his complete defeat. As the agents proceeded with the arrests, reading the rights and placing handcuffs, Thunder walked calmly to Melissa, touching her shoulder with his muzzle in an almost human gesture of recognition. "Thank you," she whispered, caressing the thick fur of the animal. "For everything." Agent Lawrence approached, holding the flash drive they had rescued. "We have everything we need here, complete documentation of an international fraud, falsification, and animal trafficking operation." The judge didn't hesitate to issue the warrants. "And the animals at the ranch?" asked Melissa. "They'll be placed under state custody until the case is concluded. Afterward, the legitimate ones can be rehabilitated and reintegrated. The illegal clones—" He hesitated. "We'll have to consult experts to decide the best procedure." Melissa looked at Thunder, then at the top of the hill where Lily was anxiously watching. "Some of them already have a home to return to," she stated with certainty. 3 months later, Martha Wilson's ranch had been transformed. The old tool shed had been converted into a small stable, and the adjacent field now housed a permanent visitor. Thunder grazed peacefully under the late afternoon sun, occasionally raising his head to observe Lily, who was playing in the yard under Martha's watchful eye. Not far away, Melissa and Chris were chatting on the porch, sharing a cup of tea while reviewing documents. The trial of Alan Vincent and Victor Parker was ongoing, with grim prospects for the defense given the irrefutable evidence presented. The international operation had been dismantled, resulting in arrests in 3 countries. "I still can't believe we managed it," commented Chris, observing the peaceful family scene. Melissa smiled, her gaze fixed on Lily and Thunder. You know what they say around here. Some stories are kept by the land, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. And some are kept by mysterious buffaloes, Chris joked. Who can say? Melissa replied, standing up to join her sister in the field. This land has always had its own guardians. As she walked toward Lily and Thunder, the setting sun of the Montana Highlands cast a golden glow over the trio, as if nature itself was celebrating the restored harmony. The buffalo raised his head, his attentive and intelligent eyes following Melissa, as he had always done, a silent guardian, a living connection to the past and a promise for the future.